Good evening, I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight and everybody watching on TV or on your computer to the meeting of the Brighton Town Board for February 22, 2017. Whenever we hold these meetings, we're always happy to have participation from the community, both here in person and distance communication. Now, if you're here in the room, the agenda for tonight's meeting and all of our supporting material is in a folder at the rear of the room on that back table. If you're watching at home or somewhere else, either on cable channel 12 or streaming live on our YouTube channel, you can also view the same material, tonight's agenda, and all of the supporting material on the town's website, townofbrighton.org. I would note that one item that we will formally be receiving and filing tonight, the supplemental draft environmental impact statement for the proposed Whole Foods Plaza project, together with exhibits that are attached, is separately from the meeting material and agendas on our page that is devoted to private development projects. So you'll find all of that material there along with previous material for the Whole Foods proposal. And we do that because we do encourage people to participate in the meeting, whether you're here in person or whether you're watching at a distance. I do want to note we've got some folks participating here tonight, and very pleased always when we have students and especially scouts that are here. And we have some scouts from Troop 77 that meets at First Baptist Church, working on their communication merit badge, and we're glad to have you. More often I get scouts that are here to work on their citizenship in the community badge. But scouts, any of you out there watching, come join us, work on your communication merit badge as well. Nothing I like doing more than coming to Eagle Scout Courts of Honor, and I had the pleasure not that long ago of going to Troop 77 Eagle Scout Court of Honor. So welcome, Scouts, and we really do. We appreciate participation from anyone in these meetings. Now, if you're here, we'll have our open forum in just a moment, but if you're watching from somewhere else and would like to participate in the open forum, you can call 303-3060. Someone will take your question or your comment and relay that to me, 303-3060. If you are deaf or hearing impaired, you can participate in the open forum through our TDD line, 784-5205. Our TDD line is 784-5205. We look forward to hearing from you and any questions or comments you may have. Let's start with our pledge to the flag. I'll ask Councilmember DePonzio to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Jason. Just a couple of announcements. First, in case of an emergency, if you're here in the room, you'll hear the Town Hall emergency alarm system. If you hear that, please leave the room immediately, either through the door to my right, marked with the exit only sign and the exit light above it. If you go out that door, turn right, go down the stairs, out the back door of Town Hall and away from the building. Or you can go out through either one of the double doors at the rear of the auditorium here, through the lobby, out the main front door of Town Hall, down the front Town Hall steps, and again, away from the building. We don't expect that to happen, but we want to make sure you're prepared. Occasionally, we experience technical difficulties with the live cable broadcast. If you're watching us live tonight, Wednesday night the 22nd, and you lose the audio or the video, please contact Time Warner, or Charter as they're now known, at 756-5000, 756-5000 for technical difficulties with the live cable access channel broadcast tonight. We'll go now to our open forum. During the open forum period of the meeting, members of the audience may address the town board about any matter, whether or not it is a matter that's on our agenda this evening. Now, we do have one public hearing tonight concerning a proposed cable franchise agreement with Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC, which locally is known as Charter Communications. If you are here for that public hearing, or if you have comments on that public hearing and would like them to be included in the record of the public hearing, which the town board will consider in terms of granting that franchise agreement, please wait until the hearing is actually held to give your comments to us for the record. But otherwise, if you'd like to speak during the open forum, I'll recognize members of the audience. When you're recognized, please come up to the podium. If you would, please state your name and address. Please direct your comments to the board and not to other members of the audience. If you do have comments regarding personnel matters, regarding employees of the town, I'm going to ask that rather than engage in them during the open forum, that you reach out to my office. Those are matters that we would not be able to discuss during an open meeting. If you do have comments, please be courteous. Try to keep your comments as concise as possible, and you can always submit your comments, if you have written comments, to the town clerk, Dan Amon, for the record. So I now declare the open forum portion of the meeting to be open. Is there anyone that would like to address the town board tonight during our open forum? Hearing none, we will move on with the meeting. I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda with one change. Two of our board members are not here tonight. Councilmember Warner is out of town. Councilmember Novros is not feeling well. We have an item, a bond resolution, but that matter requires at least 4 yes votes for action to be taken. So I'm going to ask that that matter come off the agenda tonight. But would someone make a motion to approve the agenda with that matter deleted?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Motion to approve and file town board meeting minutes for meetings held December 14th and December 28th, 2016, and our organizational meeting for 2017, which was held on January 3rd, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Public hearings, as I mentioned a moment ago, we have one public hearing tonight concerning the proposed cable franchise agreement with Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC. Dan, has the legal notice for the public hearing been given?
Legal notice was in the February 16th edition of the Brighton Pittsford Post.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the town attorney if you could just very briefly discuss the basis for this public hearing. Obviously, Time Warner and successor entity has been providing, and predecessor entities, I should say, have been providing cable service in Brighton for quite some time. But Ken, if you could just very briefly talk about the purpose and the need for this hearing.
Sure, Supervisor. So under the public service laws of the state of New York, it is the municipality that has the jurisdiction and the right to grant what we call franchise agreements with various providers of cable service within the community. Time Warner Cable, now Charter and/or Spectrum, not sure which it is, has been providing that cable service to the residents of the town of Brighton for some time. There was an existing franchise agreement which has termed out, and the company is interested in continuing to provide cable television service to the residents of Brighton. So they've approached the town to ask if we are interested in entering into a further franchise agreement so that Time Warner Cable can continue to provide that service. The procedure requires us to notify the public of the application to enter into a franchise agreement with the town of Brighton and to hold this public hearing to give the public an opportunity to comment on their input relative to whether the town should enter into a franchise agreement with Time Warner Cable in this instance. We did have, as you will recall, another application that was filed by Frontier Communications, who is also interested in entering into a franchise agreement with the town of Brighton to provide cable television service to at least initially a portion of the town. I think that might be one area where the board may wish to inquire during this public hearing as to the difference in scope of the geographic scope of service to be provided. And we did hold that public hearing, a public hearing for the Frontier application, and are still reviewing the information provided to us by the company. We've posed a few additional questions to the company, which we're waiting for answers on. We do have a time period within which to make a decision regarding whether we would grant the Frontier application for a franchise agreement. By our calculation, the board should probably take that up no later than its March 22nd meeting. There is nothing in the law that requires you to grant or deny any particular application. There's nothing in the law that requires that restricts the board from granting multiple franchise agreements. So if you agreed to grant a franchise agreement to Frontier, that doesn't preclude you from granting a franchise agreement with Time Warner. We could have both providers in town, and there certainly is nothing wrong with that. So I think that's about the background I wanted to give tonight. I don't know if there's anything further the board wishes me to add.
Thank you, Ken. And I do want to clarify that the public hearing is now open in this matter. Ken, just a quick follow-up question on that with the time frame involved. And I know we are continuing to await. We've had some back and forth, some responses to at least some of the questions that were posed to the Frontier representatives at the public hearing held last year. There were some follow-on questions, I believe. If the town board is not able to take action because maybe there are outstanding questions, what's the default? Is the application deemed approved or denied if we're not able to act within 180 days, or if we don't act within 180 days?
So the default is that the application is denied along with any other pending applications before the board.
Okay. So that means if we do not act at all on that application, it has the effect of
Denying all applications before the board.
Okay. If we were in a position, rather than letting it be denied because the time runs, that we take affirmative action, and I'm not suggesting this is necessarily what we would do, but if we were to take affirmative action to deny it, that would not preclude them from resubmitting, presumably?
Correct, and it also would not act to deny or to effectively deny other pending applications at that time.
Good. All right. having declared the public hearing to be open, and we do have a representative here from Time Warner in case there are questions that may be asked, and as Ken alluded, there certainly may be. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board in this public hearing concerning the proposed Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC cable franchise agreement? Any questions? Hearing none from the audience. Any questions from members of the board or any comments? We do have a representative from Time Warner who may or may not be able to answer any questions. I guess Ken, you alluded to the question about, and Time Warner currently services the whole town, and to the best of my knowledge, that would continue to be the case under this application.
If we have a representative, it would be great to have that testimony. Do we have somebody who can speak to that here, or?
Yeah, I guess I can. I was just planning.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that's just so we have that information for the record.
Hi, yes. So the question is, we currently.
You could just identify.
Sure. My name's Chris Mueller. I'm with Director of Government Affairs with Charter Communications.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes. So right now we currently serve a large portion of the town of Brighton, and the question is, do we?
You have capability for the whole town at this point?
I can't answer that without doing it and looking at
Okay.
where we are, but I know we serve a large portion of the town of Brighton. I can't specifically say yes, we serve the entire town. I wouldn't.
And it is not your, I'll ask the leading question, it is not your intent under this new franchise agreement to reduce the area of service that you currently cover with the town?
I would think that would be the case. I don't see us reducing any type of areas that we currently are that we're going to pull out of. But obviously, I would be
Sure.
cautious in answering that question.
Sure, understand.
Just not sure who the appropriate party would be to answer this question. Are there any material differences between the existing franchise agreement and the proposed franchise agreement that's before us tonight?
It's a draft that we sent to the supervisor, and we've been, we usually, it's a draft. The current franchise has been expired, and so that was a different draft that was under another company.
And
So-
and it has been expired for quite some time. In
Sure.
fact, it expired following a major decision affecting cable franchise fees out of the Ninth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals a number of years ago. That's the case, we've discussed it here in the past, that determined that notwithstanding what was in the franchise agreement, that towns cannot levy franchise fees against cable companies for broadband internet services. The old franchise agreement has language in there that specifically says we can do that, but since that decision, we have not done that. At one time, that was a significant source of franchise fee revenues for the town, and a growing one. So that's, and Mr. Miller is right. There have been some changes, partly just because of the lapse of time. That's one of them. There are some other, I think, more technical changes. But I know in large part, and Ken and I have talked a little bit, I think in large part the agreement remains the same. And of particular interest to all of us, the franchise fee amount would remain at 5%. Ken, did you have?
I just had another question I wanted to ask Mr. Mueller, which I believe you'd be able to answer. I not so jokingly said I was, talking about Time Warner Cable or Charter or Spectrum. Can you just talk a little bit to us so we can understand who it is that owns and operates the company that is sponsoring this proposal?
Sure. The company is actually, the parent company is Charter Communications, and the brand will be Spectrum. So it's similar to other companies that have a brand out there that have a parent company. So it would be Charter Communications, locally known, and doing business, branding a Spectrum.
Although I believe the agreement, at least the draft, does reference
Yeah.
Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC.
Yeah, that's the company that's holding the franchises that all the current franchises under that went through with the merger, under the Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC.
So Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC, if I got that name close to right,
Yeah.
That's correct.
merged with Charter Communications?
So Time Warner Cable merged with Charter Communications, and when we get out in the public, the brand will be Spectrum, but you see the Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC, because that's the franchising that holds. Charter Communication is the owner of the franchise and the company, but the franchising authority, the holder is Time Warner Cable Northeast LLC.
And just because I'm not as familiar with the name Charter Communication, can you tell me something about that company? Is it a national, international? Where are they based? All of that.
Sure, they're a national company. They have some corporate headquarters in St. Louis and Denver. They have some areas in the Midwest, Minnesota as well. But yeah, they are a national company. They've been a major company within the cable industry and not just cable, telecommunication industry as well.
And where else in the state of New York do they operate Charter?
Charter, we have about 1,200 franchises across New York State.
Okay. So Western New York
And by the way, Stamford, Connecticut is also one of their headquarters, just as you're aware. Yeah, about 1,200 municipalities across New York.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments during the public hearing? Can we have 180 days, is that correct, following the close of the public hearing?
Yes. So it's a Public Service Commission regulation that provides the town a period of technically 6 months, not 180
Okay.
days, but about 180 days. 6 months is what the regulation actually says. And that is from the public hearing, so.
Okay. So any other questions or comments, either from the public or from members of the board?
No,
Mr. Miller, thanks for being here. I know you didn't anticipate answering questions, but thank you for that.
So, no problem. I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to hearing from the town and moving forward with this renewal process.
If we have any further questions, communications following what I anticipate in a moment will be the close of the public hearing, we should direct them to you?
Yes, please.
Great.
And with respect to the franchise agreement itself, obviously that's something that I'll review in further detail. I'll speak to the supervisor about that. If we have additional requests or needs for revisions, we'll be in touch about that as well.
Absolutely. I look forward to hearing from you.
And in the meantime, as we have been for quite some time, we will continue to operate and be served by what will, the Charter, Time Warner, LLC, Cable Northeast, the service will continue. I mean, that's, I think, the most important thing. I want everybody out there watching tonight, even if you're not watching on Time Warner Cable Access 12. Cable service will be continuing throughout this process, and thank you for...
One question I'd have, could you confirm back to the supervisor's office, you will or do have the capability to cover the whole town of Brighton?
Yeah, I mean, if I can.
Yeah, I was planning on...
I'm sure you're going to reach out to me
with a
and
follow-up
I was-
letter.
I figured.
Exactly. But
I
thanks, Jim.
think that's, it'd be important for us to know,
Because it's also a relevant question, discussion point as well with the other.
right, so we have 2 applications pending, and we want to make sure that we have a level playing field.
Yep.
And so we want to make sure that we understand the extent of the charter proposal, just like we wanted to understand the extent of the frontier proposal. So that would be very helpful to have, yes.
Great. Hearing no further comments or questions, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Thank you so much again, Chris.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay. That was the only public hearing we have tonight. We'll move on to communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file our communications this evening?
So moved.
Second.
We do have a report from Penflex, which is our advisor for the funding of the Service Award Program for the West Brighton Fire Protection District, advising us of investment reports for calendar year 2016, and they were quite positive, so it's always good to get that. We also have annual financial statements, both for Brighton Volunteer Ambulance and the Brighton Fire District, as we receive each year at this time. And we also have a couple of items of communication relating to the proposed Whole Foods Plaza. And we have a motion to receive and file each of those items of communication. Any questions or comments concerning any of them? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll on the motion to receive and file.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Committee reports, Community Services Committee, I don't know if we have a report for that, but I also I'm not sure the committee has met since our last meeting. I don't believe it has. But I know we have a report for the Finance Committee.
Yes,
Jason?
the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met on February 14th last week. Each of the items that were discussed at the meeting do appear on tonight's agenda and will be presented this evening. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 28th, and there'll be a location change. We still meet at 3:30 in the afternoon, but instead of the stage conference room, we will be in the lower level community meeting room. Again, Tuesday, February 28th at 3:30, lower level community meeting room, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Public Safety.
Public Safety met last Tuesday, February 14th. It was a busy day here at Town Hall. Initially, there was a discussion regarding the Lilac 10K and 5K races. The organizers were
Thank you
considering...
to our stenographer tonight. Let me just interrupt you. Appreciate your work. Thanks.
The organizers were considering a time change for the start of those races and presented that to the committee, and the committee did have the opportunity to express their concerns as to those proposed changes. And they were going to review those concerns and then make their determination as to the start times of that race, which will be on May 13th this year.
Yeah, and that was an important matter, and Mr. Springett was there, and we did have an opportunity to speak with him, and the chief, as well as board members, expressed concern. This is an issue that a number of years ago has been a concern because particularly with the longer races that go down Monroe Avenue and then over Elmwood, closures on cross streets into Monroe and into Elmwood effectively leave the Roselawn and Home Acres neighborhoods landlocked.
Locked down, yeah.
Yeah, for some period of time. And although traffic is lighter on Sunday mornings than it is at sometimes, there are people that are going to church or people going to other activities on Sunday mornings. And a number of years ago, before the races were moved up, we got a pretty high level of concern about that from before I was supervisor, and we shared that with Mr. Springett. I don't think we've gotten any final conclusions back. He was going to have to talk to race organizers and sponsors, but I think we had a good discussion.
I think it was, yes, and hopefully the ultimate decision will not impact our neighborhoods.
Well, we certainly want the
absolutely.
races to be successful.
But there has to be a happy balance, though,
Exactly.
between a successful race and the concerns of the neighbors, too, yes.
Yeah.
So, and then there was a networking session. Brighton Fire reported that they've had 292 runs so far this year, and that's 10 ahead of where they were last year. Brighton DPW reported that they were midway through February, and there is mild temperatures forecast in the upcoming week, which we're experiencing right now, which will save on snow removal.
Good call,
and,
Tim.
yeah.
Keep up the good work.
So absolutely, if we can continue this until the official start of spring, no complaints from me. So Brighton Police reported on the arrest in the Man's Jewelers case and the social media outreach, the role that that had to play with that. And the Rochester Fire Department reported 130 calls, and that 57 of those occurred in West Brighton. There was also a good discussion, actually, between the Rochester Fire Department and the Police Department regarding locations at MCC. When a 911 call comes in, it's automatically logged as 1000 East Henrietta Road, but if something happens on the Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road address, there's a question as to where to send the first responders. So there's going to be some follow-up then with 911, as well as how to address that issue.
That kind of discussion is exactly why, we do that networking, have all the
Get all the
service
players in the same room.
providers in the room, and it's helpful.
Absolutely. And there was also an update regarding reestablishing the garage fire separation for new residential construction. New York State relaxed our building code, whereas before there was fire-rated drywall that was required for an attached garage. They removed that requirement, but the town is considering reinstating that in our own building code. Chris Roth, our fire marshal, had done some data analysis as far as the incremental cost that was involved with that, and it was determined really that the incremental cost is not that significant. So the next step is that there's going to be a draft code section put together that will come back to the Public Safety Committee for a recommendation then to the town board. So then there will be a full town board public hearing if we in fact enact that new legislation. Finally, there was a discussion regarding our emergency services contract for companies that secure properties damaged mainly by fire, that we did have a sole provider on that, and that contract has expired. So that's going to be going out for requests for proposals and coming back then to the board for review and consideration. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will take place on Tuesday, March 14th. We meet at 8 o'clock in the morning in the lower level community meeting room, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks very much, Jason. Jim, Public Works?
Yeah, Public Works has not met since the last meeting, because we met just prior to the last meeting. So our next Public Works Committee meeting will be Tuesday, March 7th, at 9 o'clock in the lower level community meeting room. And as with all of our meetings like this, these committee meetings are open to the public. Do encourage their attendance if they are interested. Jason, I got a question now. On the idea of firewall, I think the residents should need to know that would have an impact on their insurance rates, I would think, or would they even be permitted? In other words, if you have an attached garage and you don't have that,
I'm not sure if we know. It's a good question. I don't know if we know whether insurance rates are affected by that, and I'm not sure that firewall is necessarily the
proper term.
proper terminology, but the intent is to have a wall,
Fire
a wall
retardant or
separating that delays the spread from the garage and door, by the way, which is also important to making sure that happens. To make sure that there is at least a 45-minute, is that the right time period? 45-minute?
90 is sticking in my head.
Okay. But in any event, to lengthen the period, because we've seen some garage fires. Obviously, there are often flammable liquids, whether inside or outside a vehicle. Garage fires can be very dangerous, and it's important to do what we can from a public safety perspective to keep them separate from.
Looks like, I think the state code requires 20 minutes, and then what would be proposed, which would be going back to the old system, is 90 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure we know whether that would specifically have an insurance impact, although it makes sense that it would, but I don't know that for sure. It's probably a question that we ought to
Yeah.
determine the answer to.
Always bring that up in our public hearing then when we consider the new legislation too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
good. All right. So we're finished then with the report?
Right.
Okay. Then we'll move on to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $1,183,617.19, or 79 cents, excuse me. Notable claims include to the Depository Trust Company in the amount of $440,649.66, representing principal and interest debt service payments for our park acquisition and library refunding bonds. Also to the City of Rochester Treasurer in the amount of $287,500, representing the first quarter payment for fire protection service in the West Brighton Fire Protection District. And also to Brighton Volunteer Ambulance in the amount of $247,000, representing the charge for 2017 ambulance services, less estimated fuel charges. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Is not here. Force of habit, every time. Just get in the autopilot. Thinking of you, Louise. That's what I meant to say.
I
Councilmember
hope you're feeling better.
DePonzio.
Absolutely.
Aye.
Supervisor Mayor.
Aye. Jim?
All right, the next item is to authorize a supervisor to execute a consent form agreement with Brighton Central School District as lead agency relating to their 2017 Facilities Improvement Project. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is a matter that was initiated by communication from the school district under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. They are in the process now of communicating with the community. They've been working on since last year when they really made a decision to go in a different direction concerning their plans for full-day kindergarten as well as some other matters, and they are in the process of engaging the community in discussion about a different facilities improvement project, one that would, at least in its initial phase, be focused at the Council Rock School. This is a matter that would, they are required under seeker to obtain our consent for the school district to serve as lead agency under the Environmental Quality Review Act for that project. And they have asked us to consent to that. It normally makes sense for the agency that is conducting the project to serve as the lead agency because they serve as a sort of a clearinghouse, if you will, for all of the environmental review. Tim, any thoughts, any comments on that?
Just to elaborate a little bit, supervisors, we are both an involved and interested agency in different perspectives. So we do have, as an involved agency, oversight and regulations for issuing of permits, whether it be from the highway department or the sewer department. So, we do have an involvement, and obviously the school's proposal, which is not only for Council Rock, but some other projects as well, but it is a, if you want to call it, a regrouping from the Brookside proposal. So we do have a very high active interest from the town because of where the Council Rock is located.
Good. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion to authorize executing this consent form to the school district serving as lead agency? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks approval for a budget transfer in the amount of $250 to support the purchase of a desktop printer for the Office of the Fire Marshal. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jim?
The next item is to approve a declaration of particular highway department equipment as surplus and dispose of the same through municipal auction, and to transfer two 2016 Bobcat skid steer loaders as part of the Bobcat buyback program to obtain two new 2017 models. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This matter, the equipment involved, as Jim alluded there are two skid steer loaders that we have a buyback program with the manufacturer that has proven in recent years to be financially advantageous for us. Tim, you want to just briefly talk about that?
Supervisor, if you and the council members recall at the Finance Committee meeting, you did ask for a little bit more elaboration and specifics on what the, if you want to call it, the monetary values that were involved in this. We've done this in the past, obviously. Like you said, Bill, it's a great program because we virtually get a brand new machine every few years for very little cost. This proposal for this year is that the new equipment will be $78,000+ for two new units, replacement units. So that's a little over $39,000 a piece. Trade-in allowance that we are getting is $70,000 for both units, so that's about $35,000 each. So the total expense that the town has for two new pieces of equipment is just a little over $8,000. And we know that after we get too far into having a piece of equipment, the costs to operate and maintain go up, and particularly that if you had to put new wheels or tires or tracks on these right there, you're probably talking at least half of this cost, which we would be approaching if we kept it any longer. So it really is a very beneficial program for the town to participate in.
Yeah, it certainly has always made sense in reducing our maintenance costs. We wind up paying, essentially 1/10 of the value to get a new piece of equipment each year, assuming, as we have to, that maintenance costs go up as equipment gets older. That really makes good sense. So I certainly support the concept. And then we have a 2002 15-year-old Sterling dump truck that has reached the end of its career and has already been replaced by a new piece of equipment, and so that we are also going to be simply disposing, selling. So we have a motion and a second. Further comment? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with the lowest responsible bidder, Cacamese Electric Corporation, to provide street light maintenance services on the town roads, town-owned lighting. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
We've talked a lot about street lighting. This relates to street lights that are owned by the town already. These are the more commercial-looking Cobra lights that we have. And I know, Tim, this is something you reviewed and you recommend that the board take action on.
Yes.
Good, okay. And the cost is $9,400. We would have the ability to renew that contract for an additional 3 one-year terms. We have a motion and a second. I'm just looking here. Hang on just a second. Yes, okay. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to adopt an order from the New York State Comptroller's Office dated January 18th, 2017, establishing the Susquehanna Road and Northumberland Road Drainage District. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And this reflects work done in the Public Works Department to get state comptroller approval for that project. As I mentioned earlier, we had hoped to take the next step tonight, issuing that bond resolution, but we will plan on doing that at the next meeting and continue to be able to move forward with the anticipated construction this construction season. It'll be a part of other bonds that are going to be issued as well. But okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Further discussion, anybody? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and we will not, as I said, we will not take action on the bond resolution. Jim?
Next item is to receive and file the communication with an enclosed supplemental draft environmental impact statement from Passero Associates dated February 14th this year, 2017, for the proposed project known as Whole Foods Plaza, and forward to the town consultant, Stantec Engineering, for recommendation regarding completeness and adequacy for public review. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Without recapping the whole history of this project, as you know, we earlier held a public hearing on a draft environmental impact statement. Following the close of that hearing, a determination was made that a supplemental draft environmental impact statement should be prepared, and the board took action on a resolution directing the applicant to do that. They have now submitted that supplemental draft environmental impact statement. As I mentioned before, the document is available on our website for review in the development section of our website. It is a lengthy document with even more voluminous exhibits, attachments, and figures attached to it. And under the action that the town board previously took, the town board will have 45 days to review and make a determination as to whether this current supplemental draft environmental impact statement is adequate and sufficiently complete for public review. If it is, the town board at that time will set a date for a public hearing on that supplemental draft environmental impact statement. Again, as I have said many times, we continue in the environmental review stage of the process of reviewing the incentive zoning application. No final decisions have been made by the town board, either pro or con, relating to the project at this time. And there will be another public hearing at the time we make that finding that this document is complete. The public will have an opportunity to weigh in with their comments on the supplemental draft environmental impact statement. So we have a motion to receive and file the SDEIS. Any further comment from members of the board? Ken?
I did notice a very small typographical error, which I would ask if the board would agree to amend, and that is in the final whereas clause of the resolution. It states, whereas correspondence also dated December 22nd, 2016 was received and filed on December 28th, and that year should be 2016, not 17.
Yep, I see it.
So if Mr. DePonzio and Mr. Vogel, as the movant and seconder, would agree to that friendly
Yep.
change to the resolution.
Agree.
Yep,
Okay, very good.
consider it done.
Then we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? To receive and file the supplemental draft environmental impact statement for the proposed Whole Foods Plaza project. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor. That was the last item of old business that we had, new business rather. Matters of the supervisor. As we mentioned at the last town board meeting, the annual State of the Town address, which I give each year, will be held at our next town board meeting, March 8th, at 7 p.m. right here, as part of the open forum before the start of the town board meeting. The community, as always, is welcome and invited. I think we have a great story to tell here in Brighton, both about the successes of 2016 and what we look forward to in 2017 in a number of areas. And I really do. I want to invite the community to be here to hear that. Next this afternoon, Councilman DePonzio and I had the opportunity to participate in another ribbon cutting for a new Brighton business, 9 Round Fitness at Tops Plaza. Family business. We've got, just a number of family businesses in Brighton, and specifically at Tops Plaza. This is a new fitness center based on boxing and kickboxing and related training regimens. And it was great to see the whole family there, and Senator Robach, the Chamber of Commerce, and again, just another example of how we're working with the Chamber of Commerce to support and encourage new business here in Brighton. Great to see, and we wish them a lot of success, although I'm not sure I'm going to be hitting the speed bag or the heavy bag over there anytime soon. That looks like quite a grueling workout.
I need a little practice on the speed bag, but it's my first time trying it. They were very helpful in explaining it to me.
Yes, they were. You were braver than I was. I did not even give it a go. I just returned from the New York State Association of Towns annual meeting and training session. And every year there's a lot of valuable training seminars on topics like solar energy this year, zoning, and property tax issues relating to solar energy projects. Good seminar relating to strategies for dealing with vacant properties, specifically with the new vacant properties law, modeled after the great efforts of Attorney General Schneiderman to get that law done. There's some real good information there that I'll be sharing with our county clerk, Adam Bellow, and his vacant property task force that I'm a member of. I had the opportunity to be part of a panel with Jerry Geist, the executive director of the Association of Towns, Mike McNulty, a former congressman from the Albany area, and the federal director of the National Association of Towns and Townships, Jennifer Imo. The topic really was a roundtable discussion of potential negative implications for municipalities, particularly towns, and particularly towns in New York State, of some of the tax, and I'm going to put the air quotes here, reform proposals that appear to be coming soon, either from Congress or the President. It's not really clear. There was some discussion about that in the news today as to where those proposals might or might not be coming from. But there are a number of respects in which some of the ideas that are being talked about in those proposals will be very, very problematic to us. We talked a little bit about bonds tonight. The town, actually, as we've said in the past, we have a very high credit rating, and we have less outstanding, significantly less outstanding in bonds than a number of our peer communities. But we know for some projects that are going to be important to the community that we've talked about, like potentially a community center going forward and some of the things we've talked about tonight, we will continue to issue bonds. There's been talk about interest on municipal bonds no longer being tax exempt. That would dramatically increase the cost of borrowing to the town of Brighton and other communities, having a real negative effect on our finances. There's also discussion of changes to mortgage interest deductibility. This is a community of neighborhoods, a community of homes. People buy homes with the expectation that if they take out a mortgage, they'll be able to deduct their interest. They have done financial analysis with their banks, with their realtors, with the expectation that those mortgages, interest paid on those mortgages will be tax exempt. Whether or not a mortgage interest proposal is only prospective or affects existing mortgages, that would have a significant negative impact on the town of Brighton. It would make houses in the town of Brighton, the cost of financing a house in the town of Brighton, more expensive. And if it was retroactively applied, it would severely impact some of our homeowners who in some cases already struggle with maintaining their properties. As we know, we talk about property maintenance issues. So anything that makes it harder for people to buy homes, particularly starter homes, and we have a number of those in the town of Brighton, would hurt us dramatically. Finally, we talk about the work that government does often in collaboration with charitable organizations, and there's been some discussion about limiting charitable deductibility. Again, that would make it much harder for some of the charitable groups that we have in our community and every community to improve quality of life for our residents and residents in those other communities, and that could have a negative impact. So we had that discussion. There was also a great deal of discussion concerning some potential negative impacts of the executive budget currently having been proposed and what will be considered by the legislature in Albany in the coming weeks. In particular, we're concerned aid to municipalities, the so-called AIM funding, has been flat now for many years at actually a remarkably low level. Towns get very, very little, particularly, Brighton, get very, very little ongoing state aid from the state, and that percentage, the share of that funding gets less and less. We've had a couple of stopgap proposals that may be continuing, but the ongoing baseline aid to municipalities has been flat, and there's even been the threat of cutting off that aid if towns and counties don't get together and put together a satisfactory consolidation of services program. And certainly anything that would cut state aid is only going to hurt taxpayers here. But in Monroe County, I think we've been ahead of the curve in talking with folks from other parts of the state. For example, one of the things we've talked about a lot here, the town of Brighton and every town in Monroe County plows state and county highways. The state, the governor's talked about not every jurisdiction has to buy a $300,000 truck. Well, the good news is our plow trucks don't cost $300,000. We get them for somewhat less than that. But more importantly, the way we're already doing things and have been doing things here in the state, in the county rather for some time, the state doesn't plow Monroe Avenue and East Avenue and East Henrietta Road and West Henrietta Road. The county doesn't have to plow roads like Elmwood Avenue, Winton Road, and the other county roads here. We work together. We work with the county, we work with the state much more efficiently to plow those roads. We have, in the world of insurance, another place where we've heard that municipalities ought to work together more. We actually, in terms of insurance, when it comes to our liability insurance, when it comes to our workers' compensation insurance, and now, most recently, when it comes to our employee medical insurance. In each case, we work in a consortium mode that has saved us money and, and sometimes more importantly, made sure that insurance is available through NYMIR, the New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, through FLMHIT, the Finger Lakes Municipal Health Insurance Trust, and with the Comp Alliance, the workers' compensation program. All of those are examples of municipalities, whether local or statewide, working together to cut costs on important governmental matters. The list goes on of all the things we're doing. My feeling is that it makes sense for local communities like Brighton to make those judgments in collaboration with neighboring communities about what forms of service consolidation make sense for local conditions. We know local government, town government in this case, is the level of government closest to the people. I believe local government also understands local conditions. And so allowing the town of Brighton to work with our neighboring communities makes more sense than a one-size-fits-all approach handed down from a higher level. That's something I'm going to be discussing further, and it's something that we're going to be talking about more because, again, what's at risk potentially, and there have been a number of, we've talked about the tax cap. That has been an important driver of budgetary discipline. But I really think it's important that we not put ourselves in a position where what little aid we do get is put at risk in jeopardy of consolidating services that frankly we're already working on. We're going to keep looking, don't get me wrong. It's always important, and we will stand up against any proposals that move in the wrong direction. We do not want to see proposals that would cause local governments to have to work on their own instead of in concert with other communities or with the county. Those are bad proposals. But that's generally not been the direction that we've seen. What we've seen are opportunities for local communities to work together, and that's what we've done successfully because we know we answer to you, the taxpayers. You see us. You don't hesitate, nor should you hesitate, to stop us on the street, at the grocery store, at the football game, wherever you might see us. You don't stop, you don't hesitate to talk to us, and we're always happy to listen and take your comments back so we can act on them. A fiat, higher level, I don't see it. So that's my rant for tonight. Sorry for taking a little time, but I think it's important because the Association of Towns meeting really is a great opportunity to meet with people from around the state, with our executive director, to hear what other communities are doing, get ideas, hear from really the best and the brightest throughout the state as to how we can operate more efficiently. That's all I have. Matters of the attorney to the town. Ken?
Well, let me just add to what you said. I too went to the Association of Towns meeting, and I want to thank the board for allowing me to do that. And not only did I pick up some things that I think will be helpful here in the town, but I was also happily reassured that many of the things we're already doing, already have adopted, are recommendations that the association and its speakers advocated during the meetings, and it's refreshing and reassuring to know that Brighton continues to be on the cutting edge of those issues. I attended a session on the Thomas A. Swift's electrical rifle and got to hold one in my hand. There he goes. I knew I'd get that reaction.
Not sure what that is, but I'm sure it's something nice.
Thomas A. Swift's electrical rifle, also known as a taser.
That apparently is an acronym.
That's what it's an acronym. I think little things I pick up. It did not have a charge, but I did get to see those nasty little barbs up close and personal, but not in me, thankfully. But they talked about the procedures to be adopted to make sure that not only are they used well, but that the town limits its liability and exposure in carrying those weapons and issuing them to its officers. I would say that everything they recommended are things we're already doing here in the town of Brighton, and that's, that's good to hear that and good to see that. They talked about some other non-deadly force weapons as well, including pepper spray and the deployment of that and the differences. But again, what I took away was the idea that Brighton being on the cutting edge of what is going forward, both with respect to law enforcement. Another session I attended relayed to how to maintain civility, public civility in public meetings, and the recommendations there in how we run our open forums and how we invite the public in and welcome those comments and really try to set a good example for public civility, public comment, public participation. All of those things that Brighton already does so well are the recommendations that are being made statewide for other municipalities to adopt. So it's good to bring away good, fresh ideas like you talked about the zombie property initiatives and other sessions that I attended. But it's also nice to hear the reassurance that what we're doing already is what we should be doing and what we're doing works.
Thanks, Ken. Matters of the town clerk?
I have nothing this evening.
Matters of the board?
Well, I also attended the Association of Towns, and like you, Ken, I felt a couple of sessions we were in there together, and it's very interesting on the zombie properties. And it looks like the state, with the law they just passed, has
Good law.
put some teeth
It's good law.
into the enforceability of the same. And then also they conducting or managing well open meetings on behalf of the public, which I also found very interesting as well. But I also attended one session where it was rather interesting to hear about the advocacy of consolidating villages and towns and so on. That Seneca Falls, turns out the village of Seneca Falls is much larger than the town of Seneca Falls, and they voted a dissolution about 12 years ago, and the village of over 6,000 people was absorbed by the town of 900 people. That was a kind of an inverse arrangement there, and I would just say this: it didn't turn out to be as successful and as well as some had hoped. As a matter of fact, as you probably remember, the movie "It's a Wonderful Life," it didn't turn out to be that way. But anyway, it was it's still something to consider. But it was interesting that it was just a totally different matchup than I had ever expected, when the village is actually larger than the town. So, but anyway, it's good to be with our colleagues from around the state, and the exchange is always refreshing and very informative, and also helpful. I consider that. So anyway.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet.
As always, we want to thank our cable TV staff for bringing the meeting to us tonight. Thank you for all you do. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Any discussion? I'm sorry. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. I don't anticipate coming out into open session after that executive session, so our next meeting of the town board will be March 8th, 2017, right here at 7 p.m. Have a great evening. Thanks for being here.